Alrighty, so I have all of my base makeup on, and I'm going to be using two palettes from Odin's Eye, which is one of my favorite brands. They always have the like craziest Black Friday sale, and so I always pick up as much as I can during that Black Friday sale. But I am going to use this palette. This is from Angelica Nyquist. And this was a limited edition palette. Look at the art. The artwork is just insane. This was a limited edition palette, but it's just so beautiful. So I'm going to be using this one. And this is what it looks like here. And then I'm also going to be using this mini eyeshadow palette called Erd. And this one is still available. And you can still get this. And it looks like this. So we're going to use those while I talk about 2022, sort of reflecting about what has gone on and all of the different changes. I did prep my lids with this MAC paint pot in soft ochre. And yeah, so we're going to get started. I think basically I would have never sort of predicted where I am now at the beginning of this year. And I have to say it's probably one of like my more transformative times. And it wasn't even something like I planned. Like there's been times in my, life where I've done different things, but it's been like a plan to do that. I did have a plan to sort of leave my job at some point, but I really thought that would be like once Avery was graduated, like a couple years down the line. I'm going to use this color here called Memory all over the lid. 2022 was just weird for all of us. It was, a struggle. I had finally gone back into the office, and we sort of had a hybrid schedule. So it's like we were back in the office, but you only had to go into the office like 2 days a week. And so it wasn't the same scenario because like not everybody was there. And we had lost a bunch of people because of COVID for various different reasons. It was just weird. We had been fully remote for 18 months at that point. I know some people had went back way earlier, but we didn't. And the transition was a little bit rough, I think, for a lot of people. But I started noticing some changes with my sort of relationship and communication with my supervisor at the time. And it's one of those things where you start noticing little things here and there. There were some sort of bigger issues that were happening, and I was trying to address them, and it just wasn't happening. Like, I wasn't getting communication. I had gotten hung up on. I mean, it was getting to the point where I was like, am I like in the twilight zone? Because I've always worked either in nonprofit or in mental health. So it's like, I don't know. There's usually like a level of respect or just communication that just was not happening. All right, I'm gonna go in like on the underneath, I think, with this pink shade here, which is called Hella or Hela. Odin's Eye and Angelica both are Swedish, so these are all Swedish-based names, so I'm probably not pronouncing them correctly. So at the end of the day, it was starting to deteriorate, and I was sort of thinking, okay, at some point I want to do XYZ, I want to go full-time on YouTube, I want to do more, wig coaching things, I want to expand my business, and it was like more of a long-term plan that I was like, okay, let me just basically ride this out, and at least once Avery graduates, I'll sort of reevaluate what's going on. And then I decided to start selling wigs and doing the whole doll baby wig thing. So I basically was like, okay, well, I have sort of this long-term plan, and I was really working on that. And then something happened with my supervisor that made me feel like, I don't know, just that flight or fight, like I need to leave this job or I'm going to get let go. I mean, I felt like, as dramatic as it sounds, like I was being railroaded by some of the things that were happening, and people around me were like, what is going on? And I had been there for years and years, and I just had this one meeting where I was like out of my body, and I'm like, Tia, you need to go, or you know, it's going to be a problem. And so I just like sent in my notice. I didn't even think, which is really, really not like me. I'm going to go ahead and use this color called Nostalgia here. And I gave them a 4-week notice. And I was thinking, okay, like basically now I have sort of time to figure out what to do. I was also sort of looking at like other positions to see if there was anything, and the only position that was really open was one of the positions that's like always open, because it's not a great position, the structure wasn't great, it had a high turnover, so I was like, I don't want to do that. And so I had started selling the wigs, and it went way better than I expected. And that is sort of what hurdled me on the path that I am at now. I never was going to be a wig retailer. I actually was like kind of against it at one point, mostly because like I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know anything about it. You know, I thought it would be too much work. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So I wasn't wrong, but I also love it. And so it really does give me all of the elements of like helping people still selling wigs, because people do need a lot of support. They have a lot of questions. They need support outside of like just their purchase. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna go and sell sweaters. People buy a sweater, they wear the sweater, you move on. Like there's a lot underneath your decision to sort of wear wigs, purchase a wig, your reason for wearing wigs. So like that purchase is just like a bigger decision and can have a lot of like emotional aspects to it. So I felt like I was still getting the thing that drew me to sort of, you know, the nonprofit or the, you know, mental health field. Not that it's like mental health, but what I'm saying is, you know, where you're helping a person for the sake of like their well-being. And, you know, I realized that was kind of part of my issue with my supervisor at the time, because I had left a position that I had been in for quite a while, where I worked more directly with the girls and the youth and the volunteers. And I realized the position I took, although I made more money, I didn't make a ton, but I still made more money, it took me away from that. And that was what I was missing. You know, I need that interaction from people. I need to see them, you know, be happy or come through something or like whatever. That's just what I need. I'm going to go over the top with this Luxury, this sparkly shade right here, and I'm just going to tap it on the outside here. And we're going to see if I need... Ooh. They're amazing on sale, but they are totally worth the full price, and it's not crazy. I feel like this one's like 20 something dollars, which, I mean, they're not crazy full price. But I'm just gonna like accentuate that outside with this sparkle with my finger. So yeah, I feel like I did learn that. But when I put my notice in, I was kind of looking for things, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do my business full time. And I really just like hit the ground running. And I've been working for myself since like, I just say June 1st because it just makes sense. And I don't think I've ever worked this hard in my whole life. I mean, mentally, physically, just the routine, the scheduling, like everything being you. Like I don't deter anybody from starting their own business, but do not kid yourself. Like, especially in the beginning, this, you know, freedom that everybody tells you about, it's just not the reality. You can build towards freedom, and yes, you can structure your schedule, but at the end of the day, there's no other department to call, there's no second shift to pick up the pace, you know, a lot of times you don't have employees, you don't have anything, and so you do need to keep that in mind. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned is that it did make me, I was already sort of a homebody in general, like I did like doing things. I think I was a homebody, but like COVID took stuff to the next level for me, because I definitely used to go out like weekly, and now I'm like, oh my god, I have to go outside of my house. What? I'm just gonna go back in with this memory shade and blend. So I did learn that, you know, you can really isolate yourself as a entrepreneur, especially if you're like a single person doing a business. So if you have anybody in your life that does own their own business, and if they do it on their own, check in on them, because you think they're like, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're looking so good, you know, they're posting the things, you know, they're doing all this stuff and it looks so great, but I guarantee they are going to get to a point or have a lot of times where they feel lonely and isolated, and it's hard for them to take the time to like go to have coffee with you because you feel like, okay, but like you should be doing something, like you are the only one. You know those weeks when you're like, you know what, I don't feel it, and you sort of slack off at work and you know you're doing it, and you know you'll come back around and get everything done, but you don't have that ability when you own your own business. You don't. You do. You can choose that, but then you could be choosing to like kind of screw yourself over, and that is really scary. I'm gonna go in with this shimmer shade called Hellfire, just right here in the inner corner, and I think I might need to wet it. Yeah, just so it sticks and punches a little bit. I'm gonna use the MAC Fix Plus just to wet my brush a little bit. So yeah, I do feel like I ended up needing to have to take a break, which I did take a bit of a break, at least from the live sales right before and after Christmas. And it was actually really tough to like take a break because financially, like that was how I was paying my bills. And I'm still building my website. I had just gotten all the contracts that I got with the different brands, but they were so new that not everything is on my website. Yes, even today, not everything's on my website. It takes so long. So it's not like I was getting a ton of sales if I wasn't doing a live sale, or, you know, if I wasn't me being active. And that is one of the things I'm definitely changing going into 2023. And I mean, honestly, I've been running this business since June, and I do have to remind myself, like, you didn't know what you were doing going into this. And I feel like I have grown and evolved and gotten, you know, a lot of understanding. Now, I shouldn't say that because I've owned 2 businesses in the past. I owned a business where I did personal and small business coaching when Avery was little, and that's how I supported myself so that I could be a stay-at-home mom. So I did that, and I did that successfully. And that was actually before coaching was like a thing on the East Coast. On the West Coast, it was a thing for a long time, but on the East Coast, they were kind of like, what are you talking about, girl? Now everybody says they're a coach. I was actually trained and educated to be a coach. That's where I get the whole wig coaching thing. You know, I'm an actual trained coach. I'm also a trained therapist. So I do use those techniques in my approach as wig coaching. So I'm not just like saying I'm a wig coach. I mean, you could say whatever you want. And if you are doing coaching, like, it doesn't matter. But what I'm just letting people know is I do have a background and education. I was trained and certified as a coach. And also I have my bachelor's and my master's degree in applied behavioral sciences, and also in community psychology and social change. So that's where that comes from. I know sometimes people make a comment, and yes, anybody and their mother says that they were a coach, but I was doing life coaching when Avery was like 9 months old, and he's 18 now. So like, do the math. I feel like this needs something peachy. I'm gonna do a liner. Outside of that, I did also own a business where I used to be a jewelry maker, and then I had like this business. It was called the Copper Owl, and basically I was like a jewelry maker and I was smaller. So I opened a little stand that you could find at our local farmers markets. It was only open like 3 days a week. So like, say you knitted and you loved knitting, but you only did so much because it was like something you did as a hobby. So you weren't in a position to like really sell like in a big way. You could do it on consignment. So I did it on consignment. And so I was always finding people and just really interesting creative things that they were making and doing. And so every week when you came, there was something different, and it was really cool. And I had that Copper Owl with a friend of mine, and then she changed jobs, and so we couldn't really maintain it with our main job because we still both worked full time. So I've done it twice, but this is just on a total another scale. It's definitely skills and things that, you know, I had to tap back into, and understandings, and just like everything, the time management. Of course, now there's just a lot more technology involved, and I do feel like sometimes that's an issue too, because like there's all this great technology, and there really is, but sometimes there's like too much where you're just like, yeah, and do this and do this, and like you just can't master all of these different platforms and things. Like you just can't master them all at once. And yes, there's all these great tools, but just know that you still have to learn them, you still have to understand them. So it's just something to consider. Let me try this ColourPop gel liner. This one is in Good Reef. Let's see what this does. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like it just took off running. There was a lot of things that I had ambitions to do that just in understanding, like I'm one person and I can only do one thing. at a time are definitely like goals for 2023. I don't think I've abandoned any of my goals, but I have had to like reevaluate and adjust and like be realistic about them. Ooh, yeah. I think I'm gonna go back in with the pink and just bring this down a little bit further. Oh yeah. But I think over the last, the last year, but the last 6 months, I feel like I have accomplished a lot. I feel like there's a lot I wanted to accomplish and didn't, simply because it's sort of like your eyes are bigger than your stomach. So I was like, I'm going to do this. I think I've definitely like dialed it down and become more realistic about what can be achieved in what time frame, which is totally fine. It's just something I needed to experience. I'm using the liquid liner that I always use, the BFF liner from ColourPop. This was just a limited edition version. And so next is I really want to focus on my website and getting all the brands that I retail for currently up on there. I do have sites on getting retail contracts with more brands. I'm already tracked to add Aesthetica. I just have to wait for some paperwork to come back. Who knows? I want to say within the next 6 months, but getting all the brands that I currently retail for, like I got Tressalure, which is Hair Visions, that's Tressalure and Gem Tress, and On Right. I got those, and then it was like a while. And then when I started like contacting and working with reps from other companies, it was like one right after another. So I say 6 months, and only because I want to sort of trickle them out. But I definitely want to get Jean Renault, Beltress, Main Attraction, Envy, Ellen Villa, and I'm kind of interested in Louis Ferrer, but I'm not sure about that one. Now I'm going to put my lashes on. I actually got a new lash glue because the Duo lash glue, I don't know if I got one or I pulled it out of my drawer and it happened to be old, but I always use this Duo lash glue in black and I absolutely love it, but this one stings me, so I'm thinking I might have like mixed them up in rotation. So I did get this Kiss strip lasted adhesive from Kiss. This was part of their like Halloween collection, but they have this all the time. And I've been trying this and I really like this one. And it's not like burning my eyes or anything like that. So that is good. So yeah, I did learn a lot. I would say like you can change your life. You can change your life in a year. You can change your life in 6 months. So like if you have a goal, if you have something that you want to work towards, like you can totally do that. It is so doable. I'm going to be 46 this coming year. And, it's never really too late. And I know people say that, but I think it's easier to hear it from someone who is doing the thing. And for a lot of you, like you've watched this happen over the last 6 months. You've watched what has been going on. And I feel like, I want to sit down and take time and take more regular time talking about these types of things because it's like, I just go. But I want you to know, like, things are a struggle, but I mean, the turnaround can be quick when you put your mind to it and you can make space in your life and put priorities in place for certain things. And yes, there's sacrifices and yes, there's hard times. Like my life is not easy and, you guys see all the great things, which I love and I share with you. But I also want to start sharing with you, some of the bumps in the road so that when you are doing whatever the thing you want to do and you love and the bump happens, you don't get so discouraged because it's like, that's part of the journey. And frankly, like I needed some of these bumps to happen or I wouldn't have learned the things that I need to learn. I basically burnt out in 6 months. Now I know going forward how better to like manage that. And had that not happened so quickly, I think I would have still been going at the same pace than I did before, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I'm glad it happened earlier so that I can be like, okay, how can you do this without going like 1,000 miles a minute? Like, things take time. Even when you have all these things that you want to accomplish, I've noticed that still some of them didn't happen just because it takes time. And not that it didn't happen, but it didn't happen in my time frame. And that didn't mean like I didn't achieve the thing. It just took the time that it takes. Like things take the time it takes. Like you need to bake a cake. You got to do the ingredients. You got to bake it for X amount of time, whatever it says, 30 minutes. You can't take it out at 15 and be like, oh, this isn't done. It just sometimes things take the time that it takes, All right, let me get my wig on and then I will come back with my final thoughts. Alright, so I have my wig on and lashes on and everything. So this is sort of the final look. And I am wearing Evanna from Rene. She's in the color Honeycomb Brown. There is a full review going to be up on her. You know, if you want to continue me doing sort of like a mini get ready with me, whether it's a wig install or makeup or whatever, and sort of just talking about life things, you know, journey, all that kind of stuff, let me know, because I think I would like to do a little bit more coaching on my channel. Also, I do have a second channel just for tmwigs.com, just for the retailing. I will link it for you down below and up in the eye. You're going to see wig reviews, color comparisons, style comparisons, but it's not just going to be from me. I do have some house reviewers, some guest reviewers. You're going to hear from a lot of different voices over there. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that. Also, I do have my podcast with Ikoya from Silky Sax, and we have the Wig Life podcast where we're talking about all things sort of related to wigs, but life, like the wig journey, what brought you there, different challenges, different fun things, funny things. We're going to be interviewing a lot of different people. So if you haven't checked that out, I will link that. We do have a YouTube channel and we release our podcast weekly every Wednesday. And you can also find it on all of your different podcast platforms. Okay. But I'm so happy that you've joined me. If you have sort of a topic that you would like me to talk about or do more about in this sort of format, then just put that down below. And if you have subscribed, please do so. Thanks so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.